Croeso I M-SPod. Heddiw, da ni'n mynd yn trafod AgriTech. Today, it's all about AgriTech. Mae gen ni panelwyr arbennig hefo ni prawn ma. We've got the best panelists from AgriTech, and you'll get to know them on the podcast today. Next to me here, we've got Dr. Ed Jones, Dr. Louise Jones, and Wyn Davies from Group Glynllifon Agricultural College. I'll ask you all in turn to introduce yourselves. Before I do that, I want to mention that we do have an AgriTech cluster. So call to action, everyone, if you're enjoying this podcast, if you're about to listen to, please follow the AgriTech cluster. Make sure you get the latest information. Join the mailing list on MailChimp and online. agritech.wales, agritech.cymru. Go there, sign up, and make sure that you don't miss the opportunities that we have. And that's what we're going to discuss this afternoon, is the opportunities. But before we do that, I want to get to know you. Who have we got around the table? So I'm going to start next to me here, Dr. Ed Jones. The question I had for you: Wellingtons or Wellingtons and pitchfork or pitching competition? What do you prefer, Ed? And we've used that as a bit of context for everyone watching and listening to the pod to understand what the hell I'm on about.
I will go with Wellingtons and pitchfork. Yes. And the reason I say that is because at home I've got the most comfortable pair of Wellingtons ever. They're more comfortable than any pair of shoes that I have. And
Hunters or something like that?
No, they're not expensive, and I need to figure out where I got them from. My father bought them for me. Most comfortable things ever that I wear around the house all the time.
You don't wear them in the house?
I do. Comfortable. I have to clean them before going in. Yeah, very comfortable.
So explain the context. You're a farmer and the pitching event question, I guess.
Yeah, I'm a farmer, fourth generation farmer on Anglesey. So I've been brought up in the industry, always had an interest in it. I've been fortunate to take part in various programs relating to agriculture. I suppose the one that's relevant to this is that I completed an Nuffield scholarship a couple of years ago. That was funded by the Rheolwr Gyfarwyddwr Society, where I had a chance to travel to different countries around the world looking at different AgriTech innovations.
I'm going to come back to that question in a minute. Okay, so you've got a background in the agri sector, but you're sort of academic and economic background as well.
Yeah, and that's what's exciting at the moment, is that we're seeing a combination of a lot of different things happening, where we used to have that traditional agriculture, but now there's technology coming involved and different elements of economics, so it's a very exciting space at the moment.
Absolutely. Diolch, we'll come back to you. Right, Louise, I know that, well, I'm guessing that you're not from an agricultural background, but correct me if I'm wrong.
No, definitely not.
What's your background, Louise, and what do you do?
So my background is chemistry, so I guess synthetic chemistry was my background. But I guess for the purposes of this, I am a stakeholder manager for all of Wales with Innovate UK, and I am really proud that we have 2 launch pads of funding for Welsh organisations, research groups to take advantage of, one being Agri and Food in Mid and North Wales, of which we have a £5 million budget to deliver projects that have an impact to Mid and North Wales. So I love it. It's a great opportunity for businesses and organisations within Mid and North Wales to do a lot for this sector. It's a really good shot, far better than any national competition that we would have.
Place-based, I guess, and that's really interesting. Do you want to explain a bit about the place-based in relation to the AgriTech Launchpad, maybe Louise?
Yeah, so most Innovate UK competitions would be national, so you'd be competing with everybody across the whole of the UK, and what's the beauty of a place-based intervention is that the impact has to benefit that specific region. So for the purposes of agri and food technologies in Mid and North Wales, you have to have an impact to Mid and North Wales to be eligible for the funding. Whereas if you're in a national pot, you're competing with people from all over the UK. So when we see competitions go live, we really are fine-tuning the innovations that come through to make sure people know you have to show an impact to the region. You might be based outside the region, but your impact needs to be clear as what you're doing in Mid and North Wales to be eligible.
Fantastic. So good opportunity. Call to action, everyone listening and watching. Keep following. There'll be funding calls coming out soon. Thanks, Louise. It's synthetic chemistry. Was that at Bangor University?
It was, yes. I came from Newcastle here 30 years ago. Yeah, married a Welshman and stayed.
Wow, good.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Diolch, Louise. And then Wyn Davies, grŵp Llanrheolio Menai. Right, Wyn, I've got a question for you. Wellies bob tro, is it always wellies, I'm guessing, rather than the pitching event? Are you more of a farmer, or would you consider yourself more of a business person, or is it a bit of everything?
A bit of everything, including the sea as well.
All right.
Yeah. It was either the land or the sea.
Right.
And the land won the argument at the end of the day.
So, was that leisure on the sea, or fishing, or what's the background there?
Yeah, leisure really, but I think like all of us when we're young, you think about what are our life options, choices, and I decided agriculture.
Fantastic. So you've got a fantastic role at Grŵp Llanrheolio Menai now in Glynllifon. Do you want to explain a bit about your role and what you guys do at Glynllifon?
Yeah, basically I have a new role at the college. So Glynllifon is the land-based college, further education college in North West Wales. We have students from across North Wales, as far south as my place of birth, Cardigan, coming to Glynllifon, which is great. So my role basically is I'm sort of in between the farm that we have. We have a farm and forest at Glynllifon, about 700 acres, which is a commercial run operation. So we've got 200 dairy cows, 25 to 30 suckler cows. We've got 600 clean ewes in transition to a sheep milking flock.
Wow, interesting.
And we've got a 50 sow herd producing about 1100 to 1200 porkers a year, which gets sold across North Wales in the various butcher shops. So my role is sort of in between the commercial farm business, trying to make that more efficient and innovative in what we do there. That links in then with the education side. We have about 600 students aged between 14 to 19 at the college. And really the idea there is to demonstrate to them not just best practice in farming. 40% of their time they spend doing practical things out on the farm or in the forest. So it's demonstrating the practical aspects, but also innovation and AgriTech, of course. Yeah. What's latest and what can work on your farm or in your forest. And the third aspect then is outreach with farmers. Something that we're looking to do more with.
Knowledge transfer.
Knowledge transfer and working with various partners, whether it's private sector partners or private sector partners.
What about that adoption piece then, if you've engaged with young people on some fantastic innovation? Maybe we'll cover a bit of them in a minute. How difficult is it a step then from seeing this fantastic work at Glynllifon and the farming of the future, if you like? And then those young people go back to Cardigan on the family farm. Is there a gap then in that adoption piece as well, do you think?
There can be. It depends on the individual and where their particular business is in development. Businesses go through cycles, as we know, and when they uptake a new technology or a new practice, whether it's farm management practice or in the way they manage the farm, and run the farm. That can vary from one business to another. So there's no one answer to this as to when they take up business. I remember prior to coming back to North Wales, I worked overseas for nearly quarter of a century, and I remember reading a World Bank report on SME development overseas, and they looked at all of the various SME programs. And again, coming back to your question of when countries or particular industries in any country take up something, and they said it can be anything up to 10 years post-training. So it's often about planting the seeds,
actually.
Doing the training, opening people's eyes, raising awareness, education. And then when it's right for them, they may go for it or they may not go for it.
Cultural shift, maybe, you're planting as well in the minds of people for sort of being open to new ideas. And things.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And as I said, it'll vary from one business to another. There's no right answer and there's no wrong answer. The individual business has to decide what's best for them.
Just linked to that then, Louise, with the sort of funding that Innovate UK provide, I guess, does it vary from, very, very blue sky thinking where you may or may not be able to see an end user or a market for it, or are you mainly on the kind of higher TRL levels when you can see a clear market?
I think it hugely varies, and what I've really liked with this launchpad in particular is that we've funded some of the kind of new innovators, so companies that wouldn't normally maybe engage with funding at all. So they may have an idea that they've maybe just thought of in their kitchen and might be thinking food in specific reasons. Hang on, we've never even tried that before, we've never even dipped our toe in the water of funding. Versus then when you're thinking of more of a CR&D, you would think something that's maybe a bit risky at this new innovation stage. By the time they get to a CR&D level, well actually maybe that's the point, they're talking to a farmer and they're building their collaboration up, so you're seeing the more strategic. So I hate talking about technology readiness levels, I don't think it means a lot to some businesses, but you're taking something from here's my idea to here's me proving it at scale and working with somebody who can help me commercialise that step. And I think there's a gap between that and getting those into that CR&D level and then doing what you said, that 10-year thing, that's scary. Why are we taking 10 years? Is that financial intervention or is that risk averse?
I think again it depends on the business really. Some things, I think, coming back to your question, Pryderi, some things that can be taken up straight away. And I've seen this with farm businesses. They'll often, they'll go to an agricultural show, or they've heard perhaps through this podcast or something, and they'll run with it. They think that's great. I'll give you an example. At the moment at Glynllifon, we're trialling a robotic tractor, looking at automation. So it's a big thing in agriculture at the moment. Why is it important? Well, it's because most industries have automated. Agriculture has automated. We know, for example, milking cows now, there's a lot of robotic milking, which has become standardised. And again, the AgBot tractor that we've been trialling at Glynllifon with AMRC Cymru, the trial's just finished. The results showed, okay, it's not as fast as a tractor operator, manual tractor operator, and within the first 5 years, you're not really making it pay. But after the 5 years, between the 5-year and the 10-year point of owning that tractor, that AgBot, actually becomes, the investment becomes competitive because you haven't got the labour cost, because it's a robot. But for the first 5 years, because at the moment the cost of this particular piece of equipment I'm talking about is about £380,000 for this tractor.
It's very niche at the moment.
It's very niche, yeah. But again, if you look across all the various tractor manufacturers at the moment, they're all looking at this seriously. John Deere are doing it, Claas are doing it, Ford are doing it.
Bio-based as well, hydrogen, EV, they're looking at all sorts.
Yeah. But I think for us in Glynllifon and for us here in Wales, and this is where we're very keen on. We've agreed with AMRC to continue with the AgBot, to keep it at Glynllifon and to keep running more trials and learning more through till June 2026. And to show our students as well to raise awareness, and we'll do some events with farmers as well. I'll do a plug here. We're going to be at the Hill Farming event
good.
on the 12th of June now, down in Haverford Farm. So hopefully some farmers will come along to that and come and see and learn what's come out of that trial. But what's important for us at Glynllifon is Welsh farming. Your traditional small family farm and grassland livestock-based systems. Because most automation, when it comes to tractors and robotics, has been done for arable farms or the horticulture sector, the high end, the high value. So, for us at Glynllifon, we want to learn how we can benefit Welsh livestock farmers. So we're looking at the trials that we had very quickly were just on mowing grass for silage. And the other area we looked at was soil cultivation.
Interesting.
But we want to do a couple of more areas. One is fertiliser spreading, and the other area, because again, that can provide benefits in saving of fertiliser. It can be done more economically. And the other one, of course, is with aerating of the soil, because ultimately the soil is the most important thing on a farm, apart from the people, of course. to produce the crops and more grass. And the healthier your soil, the more grass you'll have, the more productivity you will get producing meat or producing milk and so on and so on. So
what's really interesting listening to that is we're coming at this, well, we're all supportive of AgriTech in Wales, that's a common theme, but you're coming at it from the side of you want to improve efficiencies and the economies of the Welsh farms. I guess I'm coming at this from an opportunity to innovate and create new businesses and see innovation growing between both. I guess there's a real opportunity. But let's turn to the economist. What do you think? And is there an opportunity here for Wales to develop new innovations? And how does that compare to the world you've seen, work you've done across the world or in Europe in the sector?
Yeah, certainly we have a unique farming system in Wales, maybe similar to Ireland, other European countries, but most countries have a different farming system. But if we think about we're a small country here in Wales, I think that presents an opportunity for us to be innovative, to have that interaction between government support, the private sector and innovators to work together to develop new solutions, not only for Welsh farmers, but also for farmers across the whole world. That example, that driverless tractor is a great example. Could I see that being used on farms on Anglesey? Maybe not at the moment, but could I see it being used on farms in Australia, America, maybe somewhere else in Europe? Definitely. So there's an opportunity here for us to develop new businesses that maybe don't service the local market, but export this technology elsewhere. Being innovative in Wales with that view to export new products elsewhere.
It would be amazing to think that one day we could have an AgriTech sector in Wales that's equivalent to the value of the Welsh lamb market for export. So that would be an ambition to have, I think, at some point.
There's no reason why it couldn't happen, because we've got everything we need here to make a success of it. If we think about, we have a science park, and if we think about the startups and innovators that are here, we have Glynllifon, a great agriculture college there. We have specialists in Bangor University. We have government funding available for innovation. So getting all of these to work together in a collaborative way, thinking about, right, how could we service the Welsh market, but also what's needed on the international market as well.
Absolutely. And that's the vision, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, but I've just got thinking what you said. The event that we had in Bala, and you had Ivor Williams, the trailers. I was chatting to my father-in-law about it. He said they went to Australia and you could see their trailers. So the export potential of the clever stuff that we have in Wales on a global stage, that could be some of the opportunities within the Launchpad, just because we have really clever stuff. Why don't we just exploit that clever stuff as well as deploying it within the country? If there's a global market, why aren't we?
And they're a great example, and they've a visit from them at one of our conferences recently where they showcased the history and started in Bala. Can't remember them employing 300 plus people now, and the economic impact is huge, isn't it? So great example. What about your work with the Nuffield Foundation then? Do you want to share a synopsis of that maybe with us?
Yeah, so I had an opportunity to travel to different European countries, the US as well, looking at various startups that are working in AgriTech. The way it came about was I read the Financial Times every day, and I started picking up articles that investors were piling money into AgriTech. We were talking billions ploughing in, and so I decided, what are they actually investing in? Is it just a hype, or are they actually making proper investments? Because we are facing challenges. The world population is getting bigger. We'll soon reach a point where we've got 10 billion mouths to feed on the planet, and we need to feed these people in a sustainable and environmental way. So I just want to see, are we making the right investments? And it was interesting, not to go into any particular startups, but what I found was a lot were startups that didn't talk to farmers. And that was a surprise, and that was a worry as well. They were startups that found agriculture to be a data-rich industry. And when you think about this whole supply chain, there's a lot of data there. And that's what a lot of startups like. So they were getting this data, analysing it, then developing technologies to make certain things given the data that's feeding in. If that doesn't work, if you haven't got that farmer who understands how it actually happens,
is the value there at the end?
Those a lot of those startups did fail because they were developing products that were of no use to anybody. The ones that were successful were the ones that engaged with the farmers from the get-go. They did analyse the data, they spoke to the farmers to see, like, the way we interpret the data is this way, it doesn't make sense to you as well. And they'd be working together and they'd be developing a product at the end that actually worked.
And the nation's doing the most in AgriTech at the moment?
I wouldn't say nations per se, but it's interesting where it's happening. So one of the places I visited was New York City. Right? Urban jungle, bang in the middle, and there was a lot of startups there working on AgriTech. They were going out of the city to engage with the farmers, run their trials, coming back in. Because if we think about what skills did they need? They needed data analysts, they needed electrical engineers, mechanical engineers and so forth. And where do you find them? It's right in the middle of the city. So they had to go where they needed that speciality, and then they'd go out to engage with the farmers.
You'd never imagine that, So in terms of the sorts of products, I know we had a recent AgriTech cluster meet-up over at Glynllifon, and thanks for hosting us there. A fantastic afternoon, great turnout. Thank you everyone who turned up. That's the sort of thing we do in the AgriTech cluster. Interesting events such as that. But do you want to give us a flavour of the sort of products and services you've been trialling over in Glynllifon?
Okay. Well, it is a real mixed bag. I mean, some of the previous things we've done was LoRaWAN, which are the low power, long range, wide area access network sensors.
Easy for you to say.
Yes, very easy. So that's something we looked at, and that work stopped, but we're hoping to get back into that soon. With other collaborators, other actors across North Wales.
So that network allows you to install sensors on devices and do measure anything that any events and be notified. Yeah. So I think one example you shared was the ATV bike, was it? The quad?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So we looked at LoRaWAN sensors in 3 different areas. One was farm security. So some of the sensors were fitted to some of the farm vehicles. So what that does then, quite simply, is it's linked to the farmer's smartphone and through an app, and then if it moves in the middle of the night when it's not supposed to move, then it goes off on the farmer's phone and he knows it's being stolen.
Amazing.
Same with farm gates, fitted to farm gates, cattle grids. So that was farm security. That was one area where we tested them. The other area was with livestock in calf housing. Humidity is very important with calves, young calves, to get that right. And we have a wood chip store with all the wood chip that comes out of our forest. So again, keeping that temperature right, the humidity level right is important, otherwise it can, you get a little fire going. And the third area we looked at then, of course, links to the environment, which is to do with soil and water. So again, we had some soil sensors and water, and the idea was to try and inform the farmer through the sensors, again, about soil temperature, ready when you can apply fertilizer at the best time, the amount of saturation of water within the soil, because again, if the soil is saturated with water, then obviously you can have runoff, which runs into the water courses, which isn't good for the environment. So that was one trial.
So there's a market push. There's a sort of an interesting thing here where, yes, there's savings from an efficiency perspective, but you alluded to as well, we need to feed 10 billion people in a sustainable way. Yeah. And when policy discussions around that sort of runoff question, there's an opportunity for tech to influence policy perhaps down the line as well there.
Yeah, of course. I mean, with the sustainable farming scheme coming live now from January 26, then clearly this kind of work, this kind of research is very important. Yeah. I mean, we know within Wales, if I'm correct, if memory serves me right, only around 5% of our water comes from aquifers under the ground. The rest is from surface water, which in other words is farmland. So therefore, Welsh Water are looking for clean water to come off farmland. So clearly the amount of slurry, farming manure that goes on farmland, the amount of artificial fertiliser, P&K that's added, can all affect the quality of water that we drink.
Welsh Water, as well, you reminded me, they do sit on the AgriTech cluster exactly for that. They're looking for these innovations and solutions and ideas, so they've been really engaging. And that's the sort of partners that we have in the cluster plug that try to get more interest. Are there examples? Do you want to cover any other?
Yeah, well, just very quickly. I mean, the other big one, of course, is hydroponics. We ran a very simple hydroponic unit for 3 years, and what we found, the reason we did it basically was just out of interest. We wanted to see, did hydroponics work within 3 different locations at Glynllifon, all indoors, and we managed to grow 11 different crops over 3 years within the hydroponic unit. And we did it for the student learning, but also for ourselves. And the key lessons from that really was that it does work. But the big factors, important factors really as to whether it's viable and profitable really came down to energy usage, because you need electric to power the water. For us, we didn't use any heaters or any humidifiers, which you may need in a more intensive unit. So we saved on cost there, and then of course lighting as well. So they're very energy intensive.
So co-location with an green energy developments that could work.
I mean, we were looking at it, as I said, from our own learning, but also for Welsh farmers. Welsh family farms, could they have this? Because there's so many farms have got outbuildings where they could quite easily stick a few hydroponic units in and grow, fruit and vegetables and sell locally. Anyway, and the other big area then that's critical to all of this, of course, is the route to market. It's about securing your route to market locally and keeping your customer happy. Because if you don't get that right, even though you get everything else right, technically, you're not going to survive as a business.
So when it comes to funding then, Louise, is that the sort of thing, I don't know, what is a good application, and what would be your advice, I guess, for anyone watching or listening to the pod as to how to develop a good application? Is a route to market one of the areas?
Yeah, so actually Wyn's point, if you're thinking of a grant, you've got no market to sell into, why are you asking for public purse? You've got to have a clear route to that market, not just identifying that you've got a market. Can you sell into it? And if you can't, then you need to really think about what you're trying to achieve. I think from our funding perspective, if you're only going to make one of them, is that viable? Is that, if you're going to make lots of them, there's a huge value, and you're going to have growth of jobs, skills, creation of long-lasting impact, which is why I love the Launchpad so much, because those are questions that we can ask for that specific pot. That those things are really important. But I think you can't underestimate the nature of collaboration when you're doing anything. So if you can, let's come back to your point before, if you've not even talked to a farmer and you're coming up with a potential innovation that's going to impact on farming, but you don't know what your customer is, begs the question, how did you come up with your idea?
So that's the sort of thing, the team, that's the sort of thing that you assess, I guess, when you get these applications in, who's involved. And
are they the right people? And you haven't just brought people in to tick a collaboration box, but you've brought a strategic partner in because you know they're going to help you deliver that project.
You mentioned earlier on as well, from the Launchpad perspective, that you love the Launchpad programme because of the success rates, I guess. Do you want to elaborate a bit on that for us, Louise?
Yeah, I think if you were applying into a national funding pot, you are looking at competing with everybody across the UK. Whereas if you're saying, well, actually, we've got a sectoral specific call around the Launchpad, so, agri and food are eligible, but also you've got a geographical boundary. So you're kind of filtering yourself twice. I always give people steer that if you are thinking of applying into Innovate grants, try and find a thematic window first, but then we've got thematic and place, so your chances of success in this area are far greater. We have seen significant numbers in these calls, but you're competing in a far smaller, whatever the pond analogy is, fishing in a
field.
The chances of success are greater with thematic and regional at your fingertips.
There you go. Inspirational, and hopefully for people watching, they might be building collaborations as we speak. Collaboration, Ed, you're a big advocate, you've mentioned that.
Absolutely, but I'd like to go that indoor farming you were discussing there.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting area, but also a good example of something that we could export. If we think there's over 50% of the world population at the moment lives within cities. So indoor farming, North Wales, there might be a market for it. But you imagine indoor farming right in the middle of a city. So you're reducing the distance that food has to travel there to consumers. That could have a big impact. And you're rebuilding that relationship between people and food with that. So I think in that space, again, there's something we can develop over here, maybe for the local market, maybe not, but certainly something we can export out of Wales into other countries. Collaboration, hugely important. It's the only way this will succeed is by collaborating. And that's again why I think Wales has that advantage. We're a small nation. We should be playing to our strengths in ensuring that collaboration happens between all stakeholders, the innovators, the farmers, the educational providers, the funders. Everybody has to play a part there in that collaboration to make sure there's success.
And between us, the Launchpad is made to North Wales, but we've got Glynllifon, we've got Ysgol, we've got Aber Innovation, Bangor University as well. Henvice, the farm over there. So there's a lot between us from that perspective, isn't there? The funding is there. So it's a great opportunity for everyone to get involved in AgriTech. Thank you all for your time this afternoon. Diolch i pawb am wylio'r podcast. Thank you all for tuning into the podcast. Key message is it's a golden age for AgriTech in Mid and North Wales. Get involved. Follow the AgriTech cluster, join the mailing list, make sure you keep abreast of the funding applications, and we hope to have news on that front soon. I think that's the message. So keep an eye out. Diolch yn fawr iawn i chi. Thank you all very much for your time.
Croeso.